श्रीराघवम् दशरथात्मजमप्रमेयम् सीतापतिम् रघुकुलान्मयरत्नदीपम् आजानुबाहुम् अरविन्ददलायताक्षम् रामम् निशाचर विनाशकरम् नमामि नमामि नमामि
Ramakatha Rasavahini. Chapter 16, Part 3. Bharata saw and listened to all this, but the puzzle still remained unsolved. He was struggling in fear and anxiety, unable to delve into the mystery. Meanwhile, a message was brought by Minister Sumantra that the royal preceptor sage Vasishtha had asked Bharata to go to him. Sumantra also burst into tears when his eyes fell on the brothers, and he clasped Bharata to his breast. The brothers also could not control their grief. Bharata hoped that Sumantra at last would throw some light on the mystery hanging over the tragic events in the capital, and he tried various means to draw Sumantra into giving him an account of the happenings. But Sumantra did not like to speak about them. He thought Bharata and Shatrughna had already been told what had happened by those who met them before his arrival. They went to the preceptor. Bharata and Shatrughna fell at Vasishtha's feet and wept aloud. He raised them up with affection and sympathy and taught them many a moral and philosophical lesson in the process of consoling them. Already there has been much delay. It is not advisable to delay any further, he said, and directed Bharata to prepare himself for performing the funeral rites of his father. Bharata was lost in thought for a long while. Then he pleaded with the preceptor Vasishtha, "Master, this duty has to be carried out by the eldest son, and Rama is the eldest of us four. Now you propose that I carry it out? Is this just? Is this right? You have preserved the body for all these days. Keep it so for 2 or 3 days more. We will go to Rama and bring him back with us. Please give us permission to do so." Vasishtha replied, "Son, you are a simpleton. Rama wouldn't like to return earlier than the fixed period. He honors his word when once given. However much you might plead, Rama will not enter Ayodhya until the 14 years are over. Therefore, give up this idea. Perform the obsequies of your father. Later, you can do what you want." Vasishtha spoke in this strain again and again to convince Bharata of the futility of his idea. Bharata could not avoid obeying the preceptor. He agreed. The father's body was bathed, and the rites laid down in the Vedas preliminary to cremation was duly gone through. Meanwhile, urged by an irrepressible yearning, Bharata went straight into the apartments of Kausalya and Sumitra. Falling at their feet, he prayed, "Mothers, you must desist from immolating yourself in the funeral pyre of father. If you try to do so, I won't perform the last rites for him." He secured them from the promise that they would not. Both of them were much impressed by his love and affection. They could not but comply with his request. "Son, we shall act in accordance with your desire." Then the body was placed on the pyre of sandalwood, piled on the bank of the Sarayu river. Bharata performed the last rites with scrupulous correctitude, evincing a faith in the Vedas that was 1,000 times more than what Vasishtha expected and foresaw. He gave in charity, in his father's name, the 16 prescribed articles in plenty. He gave cows, lands, gold, houses, food, horses, clothes, elephants, coins, and other valuables. The recipients extolled his generosity and filial piety. But the feudatory kings, the scholars and priests, the common people could not reconcile themselves to Rama's absence. That sorrow gnawed their hearts. That agony of separation caused pangs of pains every moment. They knew they were helpless. There was no way out. Rama would never give up the plighted word. He would not return, whatever the inducement, until the 14-year period was over. They had to accept that fact. So they steeled their hearts to bear with the agony and decided to keep alive, awaiting his return, hoping to rejoice when the term of exile ended. Meanwhile, Vasishtha, the royal preceptor, gathered the feudatory rulers, vassal kings, ministers, sages, monks, wise people of the empire, and leaders among the people, and held a conference. First, he administered words of advice according to the Dharma Shastras, the canons of moral law, on the duties and obligations of rulers. He narrated the entire series of events from the plot woven by Kaikeyi to the day when Rama left for the forest. Then, Vasishtha dilated upon the high qualities of the deceased emperor, his adherence to truth, his elevated standards of conduct, his high spiritual attainments, his regal splendor, and his loyalty to Vedic injunctions, all of which made him a generous patron of countless rites, sacrifices, and other ceremonial rites. Vasishtha went on with the narration of the emperor's attempt to celebrate Rama's coronation and the obstacles that came in his way, which resulted in Rama's exile and the emperor's death through grief at the separation from his dearly beloved son. Bharata and Shatrughna, who had been unaware of these tragic developments, were overwhelmed with anger, sorrow, and a sense of shame. They bent their heads, their hearts were filled with contrition. Streams of tears flowed down their cheeks. The people assembled before them could scarcely lift their eyes toward them. Even Vasishtha wiped his eyes, which were fast filling with tears. The hall was saturated with gloom. A silence fell over the assembly. Everyone sat like stone images. Bharata and Shatrughna couldn't listen anymore to Vasishtha's narration, for they were too full of anger at Kaikeyi for her nefarious conduct. Bharata cursed himself that he was born of such a mother. He was so ashamed at this consequence of his own evil deeds in past lives that he could not lift his head or look anyone in the face. They were anxious to leave the hall and get away. Vasishtha knew their feelings and went to them with comforting counsel. "Son, there's no use lamenting over the past. What has happened has happened. Now we must think and resolve upon what has to be done. Your father, I must say, was fortunate in all respects. Why grieve over him? Listen to me. Bow your head to his command. He granted you authority to rule over this empire. It's right that you accept his grant and honor his order. Your father agreed to be separated from Rama since he could not bring himself to breaking his own plighted word. He gave up his life since he had immense love and affection towards Rama. Without a doubt, he died in order to redeem his promise. He knew that honoring a promise once made is more valuable than life itself. That is why he was ready to face death itself rather than go back on his word. And consider, Rama also went into exile in the forest with his wife in order to honor his word. It is the glory of the Ikshwaku royal line that everyone belonging to it would sacrifice anything for the sake of keeping the word once given. You share that splendor. You must now act according to your father's word and accept the responsibility of administering the kingdom. May you attain all auspiciousness in the task. May success and prosperity attend all your undertakings. I venture to advise you thus only because of the affection and compassion I have towards you, or else I would not have laid on your shoulder this heavy responsibility. I know you can maintain the fair name of your father. You have the administrative ability, the skill, and the courage needed for taking this burden. Don't hesitate or doubt. Accept the charge. Vasishtha patted Bharata on his back and blessed him. Bharata took his loving advice, and when the preceptor finished, he rose quickly from his seat and fell prostrate at his feet. He struggled to speak, for he was in inconsolable grief. His lips quivered, his throat was unclear. Words could hardly shape themselves on his tongue. He said, "Master, are these words really an indication of your love and compassion?" "No. In fact, you have no love or compassion towards me. For if you had, you would never have agreed to place all this burden on me. You are sentencing me to this punishment without the least compassion. This empire, which drove the holiest and purest person into the jungles, which plunged the entire population into years of incessant tears, which has lost its most righteous ruler, which has brought eternal infamy to its ruling dynasty, the Ikshwaku line, which has a pathetic state of widowhood of Mother Kausalya and Sumitra and the rest, which has degraded itself in so many ways. You entrust this empire to me? Alas, this is the consequence of the sins I have committed, the consequence of this unfortunate fellow being born from the womb of that embodiment of cruelty and hatred, Kaikeyi. Instead of inflicting this punishment on me, please earn some spiritual merit by sending me to Rama. I can make my life worthwhile and save myself by engaging in the task of sweeping the paths ahead of them to make them soft for his feet. I can't remain in this place a moment longer." Bharata fell at Vasishtha's feet and prayed for permission to leave for the forest. At this, the ministers of the state rose with folded hands and said, "O Lord, it isn't proper to continue this state of affairs for long. We have no ruler now. You cannot escape the responsibility that the preceptor is imposing on you. After Rama returns, you can act in the way you prefer, but now, please accept our prayers. Protect the realm and promote the prosperity of the people. Take up the reins." Bharata didn't reply. Instead, he wanted to leave to go to Mother Kausalya and see her for a while. Vasishtha readily agreed. Bharata and Shatrughna moved out of the assembly and made their way straight to Kausalya's palace. They fell at her feet and Bharata told her, "Mother, pray pardon this unlucky Bharata, who has been the cause of all this calamity, having been born from the womb of that wicked woman Kaikeyi. This cursed fellow is the source of miseries of the realm. Give me permission to leave for the forest. I cannot walk or move about with head erect, even a moment in Ayodhya, after my master and lord Rama has left it on account of me. This empire rightfully belongs to the eldest son. This insignificant fellow has no right over it. I don't need this burden. I won't bear it. Bless me. Please bless me so that I can leave immediately. Bharata stood waiting, filled with grief. Kausalya mustered courage and began comforting him. Bharata, consider the circumstances and give up your grief. This is no time for wavering. Rama is out there in the midst of the forest region. Your father is in the heaven. Your mothers, kith and kin, your friends and well-wishers and the subjects are sunk in deep sorrow. All are looking forward to you as their sole refuge and resort. Realize that all this has happened because the times were not propitious, so men's deeds became crooked and shocking. Take courage and decide. Obey your father's directions. Bow your head to the command of the Guru Vasishtha. Honor the petitions of the people. Act as the ministers are praying you should. Kausalya held his hands fondly in hers while she tried to persuade him to accept the authority of the monarch of the realm. Her words touched him with a strange softness, as if they were cool sandal paste over a burning heart. They were sweet to the ear and very appealing to hear. For Kausalya had no word of condemnation for his mother, who had caused a string of disasters. She entertained not even the least doubt regarding his loyalty. Bharata felt immensely happy and relieved when he listened to her words. He was delighted beyond measure when he noted how broad her heart was and how sincere was her affection towards him. He hadn't calculated even in his wildest dreams that Kausalya would treat him like this when her own son was in exile for 14 years in the forest, that she would pour out such plentiful affection on him, the son of another wife of her husband. What a difference, he wondered, between his own mother Kaikeyi and Kausalya. He could not gauge it by any unit of measurement. In Kausalya, he found the completion and fulfillment of the love that should fill the heart. He folded his palms and importuned, Mother, your words filled with tenderness and love are like a shower of cool rose water on my heart. Perhaps you mistook me for Rama, but alas, I am not that pure-hearted Rama. As Bharata, born of Kaikeyi, I have a crooked nature inherited from her. I am mean, with no sense of shame. I am Rama's enemy. You have taken me to be Rama and spoken so kindly, so affectionately. Your heart is so set upon Rama that you address everyone as you address Rama himself. I speak the truth, Mother. Listen to me and pay heed to my prayer. Mother, only those who are established in righteousness deserve to rule. When persons of devious intelligence and shady skills like me rule the realm, the earth will degenerate into an image of the nether regions. Selfish pushers, narrow-minded adventurers, greedy vultures, pomp-loving personalities, self-centered individuals, persons suffering from chronic envy. These don't deserve the right to rule. They harm the interests of the people whom they rule over. They undermine the foundations of righteousness. The kingdom will be ruined by them. Only those who tread the path of virtue and righteous conduct deserve to rule over others. I can discover only one such, Rama. I don't know of any other. Therefore, I will leave this very instant and clasping his feet pray to him. I will bring him back to Ayodhya. Grant me permission, bless me without further delay. Bharata prostrated before Kausalya and waited for the answer. Bharata's words soothed Kausalya's heart to a large extent. Son, In you I find surging forth the self-same feelings my Rama has. Looking upon you, I can bear a little the agony of separation from him. So, if you also go to the forest, what is to happen to us? If you declare that you are going is inevitable, then take me too. For whom have I to spend my days with in this Ayodhya? Having lost the husband and having become distant from the son, the wife has not yet dissolved herself in the agony of the loss. Go, secure the permission of the Guru Vasishtha. We will enter the forest and spend at least some time with Sita, Rama and Lakshmana. I can then end this life of mine. When she spoke thus, Bharata derived some consolation and peace of mind. He fell at the feet of Kausalya and Sumitra and rose to go to Kaikeyi's palace. Bharata walked first and Shatrughna followed. They were heavy with grief and resentment that Kaikeyi, putting her trust in Manthara, had brought about such havoc. They tried hard to suppress the anger that rose within them. At last, they entered the palace. They saw Manthara herself at the entrance, elaborately bejeweled, waiting to receive them. Shatrughna couldn't tolerate that sight. He dragged her down by the hair and rained blows on her. She bawled out, "Ayyo! Ayyo!" When the sound reached Kaikeyi's ears, she ran to the spot and started berating Shatrughna for his action. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Bharata let himself go with uncontrollable indignation. He shouted at her, "Fie upon you, you blackest sinner! You placed faith in this wicked woman's words and committed despicable sin. Why didn't your heart break into two when this woman's disastrous counsel entered it? How could your tongue pronounce such painful boons? Why didn't it turn into ashes when it uttered those abominable desires? With what face can you dare reside in this palace? Aren't you ashamed to move within its presence? Alas, how did the emperor place his faith in the words of a person so evil as you? Blinded by lust, he agreed to barter away the son in order to win the wife. The conspiracy you hatched was mean and fraught with misery. You polluted the pure heart of the emperor. You set the kingdom on fire. You destroyed the dynasty and its glory and brought eternal disgrace on the royal line of Raghu. Your crooked, poisonous heart has achieved all this ruin. To declare you as my mother is a dire sin. How could you decide that when you harm another, your son would attain good fortune? Aren't the children of others as dear to them as yours are to you? Women who plan ill for the other's children accomplish only evil for their own children. How did you miss this great truth? It must be due to sins you committed in your previous lives. No, all this is due to me. Why else should the pure, the steadfast, the undefiled Rama, my loved brother and the crown of chastity and goodness, Mother Sita, wander about in the fearful forest? Oh, what a cruelty! How dreadful! Fie on you! That I have to speak to such a foul-hearted sinner is itself the result of sins I must have committed in my past lives. Oh, I wonder what dreadful sin I committed to deserve this punishment, this disgrace of being born of your womb. Sinners get only sinners as sharers and companions. How can they be associated with good people, people engaged in meritorious activity? This royal dynasty is as holy and as pure as the celestial swan, with no trace of blemish. But really speaking, you are like your mother. She had her husband killed in order to fulfill her ambition. You too have killed your husband in order to realize your selfish wish. Can the younger son ever rule over the empire, overstepping the eldest son, contrary to the established practice of the royal line? No, you did not get this fatal idea now. It was there latent as a seed since the very beginning, or else it would not have manifested as a giant tree all of a sudden. Endowed with such a wicked nature, you could have smothered me dead as soon as I was born and saved me and this empire from all this misery. Of what avail is it now to bewail what is past? Alas, your intelligence directed you to hew down the trunk and water the branches. Your reasoning faculty instructed you to promote the lives of fish by bailing the water out of the tank. I can't decide to laugh or weep at your stupidity. Well, instead of fouling these minutes conversing with you, I would rather proceed to Rama's presence and pray to him to come back to Ayodhya so that I can return with him. If he declines, I am determined to stay with him as Lakshmana has done and be happy serving him. I won't look on your face again. Bharata turned his back on her and started with his brother. Kaikeyi ruminated on her actions. She lamented the turn her plot had taken. She felt that wicked plans by anyone would grant only temporary happiness and were certain to pave the way to ultimate downfall. She found no means of escape. She could not find words to express her remorse and sorrow. She stood petrified and dumb. Kaikeyi was disgusted with Manthara. She realized the truth. She felt delighted at the righteous stand taken by Rama, and she hung her head in shame at the recognition of her own sin. End of chapter 16. Sai Ram.